Welcome to the Big Kickoff League of Ireland podcast with myself, Roy Shanahan, Nathan Doyle, and from Dundalk FM, we're today joined by Orla Crilly. Orla, welcome onto the Big Kickoff.
Come on, the 10.
Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. It's trouble. This is trouble, isn't it?
That's what I was saying, Roy. I was like, just to get a Pats fan and a real Dundalk fan on here, we had to give it a bit of time, didn't we? You couldn't have done this at the
It's the first time on the show. I had a wee present for Nathan especially. So here you go, Nathan. There's the tissues that you can stop crying about losing Stevie O now. It's good for tears, but also probably useful for other things. Who knows?
Yeah. In fairness, we're going past the watershed, so we can whop up them jokes as well. It's all right.
Well, if you've listened to Nathan, Orla, there has been plenty of tears and plenty of bitterness, so you're not far off the mark there. It must be the whole lot of them. Anyhow, so let's talk about Dundalk, because Orla, what have you seen in Dundalk this year that wasn't in the team from last year? Of course, there's players. We know there's players that have moved on, but just the dynamics of the team.
I mean, first of all, I suppose a little bit of passion. And I mean, I think you kind of have to talk about the club in the whole context and not maybe just about the team, because I think that's where it all starts from. And we've seen the link back to the fan base again. We've seen the links coming back to community, which was really kind of lost over the last couple of years, and it was hard. It was hard being a Dundalk fan the last couple of years, but having that back now, it's just a joy. It just permeates everything. It permeates the club, it permeates the team, the dressing room, it permeates the town. When you've got that, you're loving life and you're loving your footy again.
Yeah, absolutely. Nathan, you've said it bitterly enough for a long time, but they've brought in decent players again, and they've brought in a good manager who hasn't done anything too mad up there, but has just organised them.
In fairness, I was a fan of the old town until about January time. And I'll just echo what Orla said as well. I'll try and curtail that behaviour now. I'll apologise. What Orla was saying, but even for Dundalk to get the supporter group in, that was relatively new as well, Orla, wasn't it? To get the supporter group into Dundalk officially, like it's crazy to think that wasn't there for so long. To be able to link up with the relationships within the town itself, which is so important. But yeah, in fairness to Stevie, his recruitment this season, the off the field stuff has been more important, but on field he's been so impressive. Getting Robbie Benson in, it was really great, I'm sure, to see him back in Oriel Park, smashing player. This guy, the right back, McCarry, I've been such a fan of him this season. Probably one of the most underrated players this season that hasn't really got much of the love that he deserved. Nathan Shepherd in goal has been a revelation as well. That's an area that was absolute disastrous last season. And the one before, ever since Gary Rogers left, to be honest, it was a massive hole within the team itself. So, yeah, recruitment has been really important, but I do agree with all it's the behind the scenes aspect that's been tenfold. You can already see the improvement from the outside looking in. So it's great to hear that it's the same, within the town itself and within the club.
And Orla, you look at the league table, it's probably surprising nearly to see them where they are. I know there's 10 points in the difference, but they've got 2 games in hand, and obviously they're not worth their salt unless they get the points. But it's a really healthy position. Is there any talk of putting the challenge to Shamrock Rovers? Because there is people down here who are kind of giving Shamrock Rovers the league, but it's far from over, isn't it?
You must be looking at my notes page, because that was my first line. Second possession, surprised. If you went back to the start of the season and you had thought you'd be in this position, you would have, you definitely would have been surprised. And when you get a new manager in, everyone always talks about, that first year, all the players are going to be bedding in, don't expect much, and don't get too excited too quickly. But I mean, he's having a phenomenal season. And if you go back to Stephen Kenny kind of got runner-up in the league in his first season there. I said it to Stephen O'Donnell there a few weeks ago. I said, you could be you're on par to echo what Stephen Kenny had done and maybe surpass it. I mean, 2 games in hand, but the points aren't on the board, but you feel confident, that they might get it. I think the second half of the season is going to be so interesting to see what happens. I think we're going from strength to strength. I mean, Rovers have lost 4 games this season. We've only lost 2.
Yeah.
So the stats are there as well. Um, yeah, I think we're going from we're getting stronger as the season goes in, and to think that we're still bedding in. Is this if this is what bedding in looks like? That's one hand on the trophy talk.
Yeah. And you did, you lost some vital players in the off season as well. Now this is gonna sound like a bit of a backhanded compliment, and it genuinely is not, but we're not having European football on the cards this season going forward. We know with the likes of Shamrock Rovers and Derry City having it. Do you think that will come into the title race itself?
Yeah, I mean, you'd be silly to completely discount it. It definitely it's going to be a factor. Extra games, fresher legs. For us, I think people have always said it to Dundalk, that when we were away off gallivanting on our many travels, um, and we had some very long runs right up till December and that, and I don't think it impacted us that season, but I think it impacted us the following season where we didn't have such a rest and that. Um, yeah, and I was just looking at there today. I mean, they can't even fly out of Dublin. They have to go down to fly out of Shannon because they can't get the flights as well, and they're
Yeah.
overpriced. And out of all the times that I could be missing European football, I'm really glad it's this year. The bloody airport's a nightmare, and I was like really sad. I was like, oh, I really enjoy my European trips, but I'm kind of, in one sense, I'm looking going, oh well, see you next year, lads.
I'm going away myself to either the back arse of Moldova or the back arse of Slovenia, and I'm looking forward to it and all, but I'm also just stressed out in my head because we're only going to have like a week's notice of where we're going, and yeah, now
yeah, you kind of need to be ready. You kind of need to have a very accommodating family or babysitters around you, like me.
That's it.
When you to go, yeah, you don't get a lot of time,
No, when you look back at the last couple of seasons, Orla, it was a roller coaster of a ride, really, wasn't it? An emotional roller coaster. How when you look back at it, how do you look back at it?
In my rear view mirror, fastly accelerating away from it. Yeah, I mean, it was a disaster. It was horrible. Since Stephen Kenny, I know we had a good season after Stephen left, but I mean, I cried for 3 days when Stephen Kenny left, and if Stevie O'Donnell keeps going the way he's going, I don't want to be crying over another manager. I'll be sharing your pain, Nathan.
We only lost both.
Yeah, it was really hard. It was a real.
I know how bad it is.
You won't be sorry. You'll be laughing. You'll be turning the night. Yeah, there was a real disconnect between the club and everything. It was hard. I mean, you had COVID, you weren't at the games. Because of the radio, I was able to get into a couple, maybe the fans didn't, but not too many. And then even when you get back, you're only, 20%, 30% of the people there. So it took a really long time, and maybe it was good COVID happened at the same time. I'm very good at finding the silver linings. You can see that we weren't up there because it just felt maybe less. It was a bit more surreal that you weren't in the grounds, because if you had been up there watching those games, Jesus, I think the fans would have been absolutely going mental. You can be sitting on your own telly and go mental a little bit, and then you kind of forget about it and walk away. But if you imagine walking out of Oriel and chatting to people go down the street, I think maybe it was a blessing that we weren't up there watching that kind of, and it was just hard to watch. It was hard to be at such a pinnacle of League of Ireland football and doing so well, and to see things fall apart so badly so quickly.
Yeah. And what about go ahead. What about the plan that they had in place, where they seemed to want to buy players from outside of the country? They were trying to obviously progress more in Europa League, and it totally backfired.
Just put that down to notions of people who didn't know what they were bloody at. It's ridiculous. I love when a player comes into League of Ireland and his first game and his first tackle. I won't watch anything else. I'll be just there gawking. And I watched that first hard tackle go in, and I watched them hit the deck, and I'm waiting. I'm watching for the facial reaction after this happens, and I'm going, and then they get up, and you can see them kind of shaking their head and dusting it off a bit, and going, Jesus, right, okay, this is where we're at now, is it? And I love that. I love that moment. It's one of my favorite things. Outside players don't work that well.
Not in the numbers that they
Ireland.
got, Orla, though. Isn't that it? You can have good players from the outside, but
huge. They were
you can't
falling over.
overload them in one season.
Yeah, crazy. And it's not just that. Think about, you're bringing in, like a lad in his early 20s, late teens, and you've brought him in, and you've shoved him into a house, or maybe he's in a house on his own. There's not the supports around him. I mean, Dundalk, it's a big town, there's plenty happening in it. But what Stevie O'Donnell did, and I've been saying this for a couple of years, he brought in the three Welsh lads. The Welsh lads knew each other. They came in together. They lived in a house around the corner, and that settles people. If you've got random people coming in, some that don't even speak English, one had to bring his bloody cousin with him just for a bit of company. They're not going to be happy in their personal lives. They're not going to be happy, living here. And if you can't be happy living, how the hell is that going to translate onto the pitch as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk. What's your show called, by the way? You need to get that out there as well, Orla.
I might get an extra 2 listeners. It's called The Build Up. So just before the infamous John Murphy, who does the commentary for Dundalk FM at Dundalk games, I come on for about half an hour beforehand, and I just cover League of Ireland, kind of all the League of Ireland news and gossip, everything that's happening at the club, and I cover Women's National League as well.